Hi, everyone. Life Coach Carisa here, back with you today to talk about a very important topic. This is called signs that you need to slow down. If you follow me closely, you may have noticed that I am a little later than usual with this video. There's a good reason for that. We are remodeling the interior of our house, and so things have been disrupted quite a bit while I vacated my office and moved back in. And we are only about halfway through this project, but it sure will be nice when it's completed. I am constantly moving from room to room, trying to just find a place to be during the day, just me and our dog Rosie. And the house is always so dusty, and I'm just rolling with it. So I can tell you that this remodeling experience has shown me that I have so much more patience than I thought I did. So there's always hope for us to grow and evolve, right? My former self really lacked patience. And so I was pleased to see how I have been handling all this chaos in my home. Okay, so back to the topic for this week's video, signs you need to slow down. Perhaps you won't even know you need to hear this, or maybe you're in denial over it, or maybe you just don't think it applies to you. You know, I have been there. I used to be a person that didn't know how badly I needed to slow down, and I didn't know how to slow down. It was just such a part of me. You know, my actions and habits were so ingrained that I didn't know any different. Okay, so this could certainly apply to you as well. So what do I even mean by you need to slow down, right? For me, these are some of the signs that were present, even though I didn't acknowledge it at the time, for the bigger problem that it was in my life. So I constantly felt overwhelmed. I struggled to find time to take care of myself, like truly take care of myself. And when I did, I wasn't really there, or I would feel guilt. Everything irritated me. I didn't have the time, the quality time for my family or friends. You know, I kept raising the bar on what I would need to accomplish in a day. I was convinced that I needed to do it all. I made unhealthy or even unsafe decisions, which I'll talk about in a little bit. You know, my perfectionism tendencies were like so strong, and I had no time to really appreciate any space that was in my day. You know, I would just fill it, right? Sometimes not even having time to eat my lunch. Like, this is how far out of whack my brain was on what was really a priority. So I didn't appreciate any space in my day. It had to be filled with something that my brain labeled as being productive. Okay. And I really lost track of my priorities. Like I just didn't have those in my day-to-day sight. So those are just some of the signs of the things I experienced. You know, ask yourself, what signs are present in your life that may be an indicator that you need to slow down? Okay. I think it can be helpful to go back and look at your past for insight. You know, I recognize as a kid, I always had to be doing something. I was not content with just sitting around for very long. I had no awareness of this at the time, but as an adult, I recognize that I am full of energy. I mean, to paint the picture better, here's an example. I wake up at the same time every day and I jump out of bed ready to go. I do not consume coffee or energy drinks. In fact, I've never even tried coffee before. And when I ever do have any added caffeine, my body does not respond well. I go into these shakes. So I just wake up energized and I can keep going all day without getting exhausted. And I often have to shut myself down intentionally because I could keep going. This is why I would just work until the wee hours of the morning, because I just felt like I had all this energy, right? So I have learned like that. I thought this was normal, but I'm as I've aged, I'm recognizing I don't think this is normal. And I have learned to become grateful for it, though. I would really rather have all this energy that I need to figure out what to do with than being someone who is really struggling to have the energy. So I feel for you if that is the position that you are in. You know, I just have to realize that for me, I have to channel it in productive ways so that I don't burn myself out physically and mentally. And I can recall my father would never be sitting still. My mom at times too, they were always doing something, it seemed. And my dad really stayed this way until his passing at age 80. Neighbors would describe how he would work in the yard at the hottest part of the day and not take breaks. And so this really tells me that it is our habits, our autopilot, the learned behaviors, they carry with us. And the longer they go unnoticed or unmanaged or recognized for what it is, it will be that much harder to deviate from them as your life goes on. Since I have made drastic career changes in my life, I see things differently now. I have now exposed many of the habits I had, and they were direct examples of how I didn't know how to slow down. For example, I recognized that I was obsessed with checking my email. When we sold the family business, within about 6 months, my email slowly dwindled. And I went from being someone that received hundreds of emails a day to less than 10. And my mind and body were so trained to check email constantly. I caught myself still obsessed with checking it and then feeling strange when there was none to be found. Like habitually picking up the phone and checking it, and recognized I didn't really want to be doing this, but it kept happening. And this fascinated me, right? This muscle memory, motor memory, like it just kept happening. I'm like, why am I doing this? Right? So another, I've shared previously how this, unhealthy habit was not serving me, with the phone. It's like it had gotten to the point that I would use my driving time to read and write extensive emails while driving, completely reckless and unsafe behavior. I am so not proud of that at all. But again, I was just in this routine. Once you repeat it a few times, it just becomes so part of you, right? I also had this moment of realization that my former self would listen to podcasts at like 1.25 or 1.5 times the speed so that I could finish them faster. Isn't that crazy? I had gotten so accustomed to trying to accomplish as much as possible in as short a time as possible. It was like a revelation. I had it within the last 6 months when I realized that I was still listening to podcasts sped up. And I was like, why am I doing this? I don't need to do this. I have more white space in my day now. And I think the answer was because you've been doing it this way for so long. So I changed that behavior, right? Another one, I recognized that my love of reading books had also turned into like a contest. I keep track of how many books I read on an app, and I would set a goal for how many books I wanted to read in a year. And I noticed that I began looking at the page counts of books that I had on my want to read list so that I could like hit that goal or maybe even exceed it or make it a little bit easier. So it wasn't about the content sometimes, and I wasn't really focused on what I was consuming. It was about consuming it quicker, right? Speed. And so the byproduct of that was really rushing through reading books and not retaining or enjoying the process. So no matter what phase of life that you are in, if you think this is something you need to work on, I encourage you to do so. We think that it's only temporary, but what I have seen in my own life and witnessed in others is that it is just part of you. There isn't this day or this place in time that you're going to arrive to where that all stops. We have to work on it. I recall this fast pace of life when I was a teenager. I remember it when I was a young adult. I remember it when I first got married, and when I was a mother of young children, and when I was a mother of teens. And now, as I am at this place where I've created more white space in my days, I see how intentional I have to be to not fall back on those old habits where I was speeding up and going fast, right? Now, I share all these examples in the hopes that something may click or resonate with you. The actions that we take daily are like 95% autopilot. So we sometimes need to be shaken a bit or to disrupt these habits, right? We need to hear that there's another way to live, that it's okay for us to change. It's actually quite healthy. Because I'm certain if you would pause, reflect, and be honest with yourself, you may be able to see the signs of being caught up in this faster than fast pace of life, and you're just running to keep up. Even though you logically know this is unhealthy for you, you will stay on autopilot. So many of us do. Don't wait until something forces you to slow down. I shared how COVID was my catalyst for change. Our business slowed down so much in such a short time, and it forced me to have all this white space, and I was able to see what was not healthy in my life. A very dear friend of mine was always on for his work, right? I would see it because when we were out riding bikes, he would answer work calls during our rides, and sometimes he would have to stop and tend to them. And having had a similar sort of relationship with my work, I recognized it. And I always hoped for him to figure out how to slow down, right? And, whether you believe in divine intervention or not, a life event took place that changed everything for him. And he was forced to slow down. And I would imagine that he views the fast pace of life a little differently now, right? So this is really powerful. Here are 5 great questions that came from my master coach. And I encourage you to spend some time pondering these questions and journaling your answers. It is so powerful to uncover what really matters to you, right? And that's what these questions did for me. If I had 1 year to live, what would I stop doing? If I had 1 year to live, what would I start doing? If I had 1 year to live, what would I no longer care about? If I had 1 year to live, what would I care more about? And lastly, why do my thoughts and feelings and actions change if I give myself less time to live? It's so powerful, right? When I answered these questions, I really had to break out of the realist thinking that I am prone to, meaning that I really went deeper and was honest with myself about how I felt about these questions. It really helped me reframe things in my life. And that's not just a one and done. I have to kind of constantly revisit that, right? Because I have a lot of very well-worn neural pathways where my brain is used to being in that faster pace. So I have to always ground myself and root myself in questions such as those. They're very helpful. So lastly, I'd like to leave you with some ideas for how to slow down. Okay. There are many things that you could do, but I'm just going to highlight a few, kind of get the wheels turning in your mind. 1, pay attention to what you pay attention to, why you choose this when you step back and evaluate. Okay. 2, be present and focus on the people in front of you. This means turning off the phones. When you're watching TV with family, put the phones away. We're very guilty of this. We have gotten into the habit of needing to fill every bit of silence in our lives, right? We don't allow space for what could develop, right? Number 3, drive the speed limit. Pay attention to your surroundings while driving and keep the phone put away when behind the wheel. Number 4, establish and respect your limitations. Stop believing that you need to be superhuman and accomplish more than what is really needed. If you got pulled out of your situation tomorrow, what would be the most important things that would have to get done, right? We kind of lump everything into that bucket, and it's not true. It's a story that we tell ourselves. Number 5, include some fun in your life. Find a hobby or do things that bring you joy and make you smile. Number 6, learn to be okay with silence in your life. Don't find a way to fill the void. Be excited when you have white space. You can use this time to just be silent or to meditate or just take some deep breaths. Okay, so there you have it. Signs that you need to slow down, examples of what that may look like, questions you can ask yourself to establish what is most important to you, and lastly, some everyday ideas for how to actually slow down. Am I all the way there? Of course not. But each day I tap into my awareness and ability to change the course I am on for my own well-being. Whether you are a mother, a father, a grandmother, wherever role of life you're in right now, just recognize, am I speeding through life? Would it benefit me and my family for me to slow down? All right, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this video, please click that like button and share this with others that you care about that may also need to slow down in their life. You can also subscribe to my channel to be notified when new videos are released. And until next time, I hope you will assess your personal and professional situations in your life and acknowledge if you do need to slow down. And if so, you will take steps toward that. We don't have to change overnight. Little changes that we make new habits out of can get us started on a new path that will really serve us better mentally, physically. All right, everyone. Have a great day, and I will see you in a couple weeks.